everybody. Welcome to FloTrack's Cross Country Ranking Show presented by HOKA. My name is Nia Gibson, and I'm here with Bryan Deibel for another week to talk cross country. Usually we do it every other week, but we're in for a treat because honestly we have a lot going on. We have a lot to talk about, so we're doing back-to-back this week. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, 2 big weekends of cross country in a row. Obviously, I was at the first one in Missouri. Our boy John was at the second one at Paul Short. So lots and lots of stuff to dive into and start talking about, obviously, as, you know, things kind of get moving and shaking.
Joining us in the studio is HOKA athlete Krissy Gear. She is our guest analyst for the season, actually. And, you know, she's an NCAA champion, HOKA athlete, 2023 national champion, one of the most versatile runners you'll ever come across. Krissy, how are you doing?
I'm super excited to be here, you guys. I mean, like Bryan just said, you know, there's a lot going on. I feel like by this point in the season, a good majority of people have opened their season. And then you have Renats at the end of this month, and also the start of championship season. You have a conference champ. So October might be one of my favorite months of cross country, and just in general.
Oh, are you a Halloween girl?
I am a Halloween girl.
Ooh, do you guys have your costumes ready?
No, I never know what I want to do.
I have a toddler, so my wife pre-plans my costume, so I have to be whatever the toddler, like my son is. So it'll be, I think this year we're doing the pigeon, Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, if you've read those books or that series
cute.
of books.
Yes.
So he's going to be the pigeon. I have a bus from last year because I was the Magic School Bus. Yeah, and I think, I don't know what she's going to be the bus driver. So last year she was Miss Frizzle, and last year he was a lizard. So like we're just reusing the bus because it's sat in the garage for months, and why not?
I really want you guys to do The Incredibles one day. I really
That'd be
do.
kind of fun.
Right?
That'd be fun.
Great.
That'd be a good one.
Okay, we can review it in this past weekend when like that weekend passes. So let's talk about this past weekend in cross country, guys. But before we do, guess who was on the ground? Our very own rankings expert, John Davern. Hi, John.
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
Good. I mean, Bryan, not only is he a school bus, but he was an athlete as well this weekend, right? Ran a little half Ironman, huh?
I
Got
did.
Some legs
Ooh,
still.
nice.
I did, a little sore, but it was good. It was a lot of fun out there. The run I thought was gonna be the easiest because obviously that's my background, but I suffered a little bit. It got kind of hot and went out a little too hard, got a little ambitious early, but yeah.
So was it swim, bike, run?
Swim, bike, run, correct.
Is that
Ridiculous.
the one in Denton?
This one was in Waco, actually. Yeah, but I think there is one in Denton
that's
too.
What it was.
Yeah,
no,
Waco.
Waco. My friend did that.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time. It got very hot towards the run portion, though. I mean, it was like, you know, in the 80s probably, a little hotter than that, so got hot.
That's
all I can
crazy.
say.
I feel like for everything, there's just been very odd weather. Cross country season has been very odd, very hot. It's been cooler like this point last year, or am I tripping? Yes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's been kind of warm, yeah, lately. Hopefully this week it'll cool off, but hopefully the rankings continue to stay hot and the action on the grass stays hot.
Yes, yes, yes. That's why we are so happy to have you here, John. I want to get all the context before we get into the rankings of the Paul Short run, what was going on. We know Sam Burgess won the men's college gold 8K. Melissa Riggins of Georgetown won the women's college gold 6K. Just talk to me about what you saw out there.
Yeah, I mean, the weather, you know, speaking of weather, it wasn't too bad at Paul Short. It got warmer towards the end of the day, so it kind of impacted maybe the white races a little bit more than the gold races. But as you mentioned, Sam Burgess gets the win in that race, in the gold race, men's gold. What was really surprising about that men's gold race was how packed up the field was so late. Normally at Paul Short, you kind of see, you know, a 5-6 runner breakaway. But, you know, you didn't really see that until like maybe the last 1,200 meters or so where people started to kind of break away. I think Parker Wolf has the course record, which is like a 23 low. And Sam Burgess ran like 23.18. So they were not far off of the course record considering, you know, they were still packed up. But yeah, Sam, he was 16th at Paul Short last year, and then he went on to finish 192nd at NCAA. So it was a really impressive run from him. I think we'll see him continue to develop. He moved up to number 50 in our FloTrack rankings, which we'll talk about more later. But it was also really impressive to see Tam Cavenas of Harvard. He's a Harvard freshman. That was his NCAA debut, and he finished third at Paul Short with like a 23 low, 23.20-ish. I don't have it in front of me, but that's insane for an NCAA freshman to come out first race of the year, first race in a Harvard uniform and run that fast, finished third in a pretty strong field. So that was really impressive to see. One more highlight on the men's side there was Emmanuel LeBlanc of Johns Hopkins Division III athlete, finished sixth. He ran 23:23. Again, really, really impressive run from the D3 athlete. Was the top D3/D2 athlete in the field, and was only beat by 5 Division I athletes. On the women's side, really, not a ton to take away. Melissa Riggins getting the win was pretty impressive. She's someone who was out for the last 10 months with an illness that nearly blinded her, actually.
Oh, wow.
So for her to come back, and, I probably should have nominated her for the Mud and Miles, but it slipped my mind. But to see her come back and win, yeah, sorry, that's my bad. To see her come back and win Paul Short was really, really, really impressive, especially after taking that much time off from racing. So, yeah, on the team side, Villanova took the win over Penn State. Not too many surprises there. The one interesting kind of tidbit there is they were both without their number 1 runners. So Villanova didn't have CD Sixfed, and Penn State didn't have Florence Karen. So, when you add that in, it's an interesting little storyline. They probably would have been a lot further away from the field, and it would have been, even closer than it was. I think they were only separated by 5 points.
All right, good to hear. I like that. And I'm glad that you brought up the Mud and Miles spotlight. We'll keep Melissa Riggins as an honorable mention for sure. But what we have is the NYU women's cross country team. They ended up winning the Women's College White Team Champion. They scored 22 points. Top 5 girls were inside the top 20, and leading the pack was Ashlyn Pelota with a time of 20:45.7. John, what did we see here?
Yeah, NYU looks really, really strong, as we kind of expected to see them this early in the year. MIT, they're still our top team on the women's side, Division III rankings, but they didn't race most of their top runners. NYU did, outside of one that we're still speculating whether or not she is going to be competing this season. So, but like you said, NYU just completely obliterated the field. They won by over 40 points. So NYU just ran away with it. As you mentioned, they just almost ran in a pack, like having their 3 women right there in the top 10. You had, hold up, the wrong race. You had Ashlyn Pelota there in 4th, Josephine Dizek in 5th, and then they actually had 14th and 15th as well as 17th. So, like you said, 5 runners in the top 17, 2 in the top 5, just a dominant performance all around.
Sound like a purple cloud of greatness. I love that for them. Let's go to the Notre Dame Invitational. What are we seeing there? I know the Notre Dame men and women ended up sweeping the team titles for the blue team results. Windsor women and UChicago men in the team gold. What are our thoughts there, John?
Yeah, I think on the men's side, individual conversation really revolves around Nixon Kagai of Cincinnati. He went out and took the win from Ethan Holman of Notre Dame. Not a ton of takeaways considering just the lack of team strength here. It was mostly Notre Dame on both the men's and women's side really running away with it. So couldn't take away too much from Notre Dame. We know they're going to be a strong team. We haven't seen them against ranked competition yet. And so I think we'll see that later this year. I'm not sure if they're going to Nuttycombe or Pre-Nats, but whichever meet they end up going to, that's when we're going to get a real good gauge of where they're actually at. On the women's side, Mary Bonner Dalton took the win for Notre Dame. Again, not too many takeaways. It was interesting to see Allie Zealand run so well. She broke 16 on that 5K course. So that was cool to see from her. Obviously, we're pretty familiar with her from the high school side of things. It'll be interesting to see how she continues to develop. Did you guys see anything that kind of turned your head a little bit?
I'd love to give a shout out to the Notre Dame women their spread was phenomenal. Their top 5 were within a 20-second spread, which I feel like, it's a difficult thing to do. I feel like your top teams, you're shooting for a 40 to 60-second spread. And it's not like, they were clumped up, running mid-17s, mid-18s. They all ran phenomenal results. And then if you look down the list, their top 8 to 9, almost everyone they put in that field finished within about a minute of each other. So I feel like that's going to translate really well for the rest of the season, and especially on challenging courses. I think that, a tight team spread translates really, really well on a challenging course come nationals.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's just Krissy, I'm glad you kind of mentioned the women's team scores because, I was also I'm really watching South Carolina. Like, they were only 18 points back from Notre Dame. They climbed into our rankings last week. They've moved up a little bit this week. They're a team we don't really know what they have, right? Like, we've seen them run well. We know they don't have any, like, true standouts, although this Salma girl, who's a freshman woman, could be pretty strong. So we don't know exactly what they have, who they have. Again, another team that I'm really interested to see as we continue to develop throughout the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love what you were saying about the spread and just how important it is, because I think like a lot of it too is like when you mentally can see your teammates on the course, it helps give you some energy to get to where you're going, get to the finish faster, and you can use each other to rally together. I think one call out for me is looking at this field, I want to give a little shout out to some D2 love, just because John and I are both fellow D2 guys.
Yeah.
And I think Grand Valley State, looking at the women, finishing fourth, pretty solid performance out of them in a pretty strong college D1 field. Grand Valley, I think always a powerhouse in Division II, very, very strong program, just kind of continuing their strength and numbers and looking good early in the season.
Well, how about UW Lacrosse on the men's side?
Oh yeah,
D3 team finished as sixth. They were right behind Grand Valley on the men's side.
Yeah.
They are just insane. Like, it is insane. If you look at their team, how much depth they have. Like, they could easily, we only go top 50 on our individual rankings. If we did top 100, they would have like 10 or 11 guys ranked, if not more. Like, legitimately.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's wild. And not to backtrack too much, but going back to Paul Short, you look at Wingate. I know last year they obviously won the Invitational, but they finished fifth, still very respectable, speaking of D2 teams, and giving a little credit on the men's side. So, strong performances from smaller smaller Division II, Division III schools, really holding their own against some of these, larger programs.
And I'm so glad you brought that up,
We need to be the champions.
because we are going to go into the rankings, why we are all here. We got the context, and we're even going to go into D2, D3 rankings today too. So I think that stuff is going to matter. And hey, let's talk about it. D1 rankings. Let's break down the current standings. All right, not a lot of movement in the top 10. John, talk to me. I feel like the story is more so 11 through 20, yeah?
Yeah, especially on the women's side. On the men's side, as you mentioned, not any movement in our top 10. Only two men's teams raced. That was Notre Dame and Arkansas. So Notre Dame won their home invite. Arkansas won their home invite at Chili Pepper. So you don't really see any movement there. It kind of changes a little bit outside of the top 10, where you get a little bit more movement due to Loyola. And so we saw North Carolina finish sixth at Lakefront Loyola, but they didn't have Aiden Neal or Will Coogan. As a result, they dropped just a tad in our rankings from 15 to 17. And then as a result, we saw Virginia Tech and Northern Arizona move up on that end. So that's really all the movement we saw inside the top 20 on the men's side. A little bit more movement outside of the top 20 just because of Paul Short, right? Like, we saw Harvard finish fourth, Texas A&M finished third, Utah State second, and then obviously Georgetown took the win. So a little bit of movers and shakers on that end. But on the women's side, we saw a little bit more movement.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we see Villanova went up 3 spots. They entered the top 10.
Yeah, so Villanova obviously took the win at Paul Short. That bumped them up from 13 to 10. North Carolina also moved up. They didn't run a full squad at Loyola, but they moved up to 11th there. Our biggest faller was really Georgetown and Washington. So Washington finished fourth at Loyola, which kind of shook things up. We weren't expecting them to finish that poorly. They actually finished behind Gonzaga as well as Northwestern. Northwestern is the big mover in the top 20. They go from 26th to 17, and that was really a surprise. They're a team that heard our rankings last week. They had a 13-second spread earlier in the season. They had a 28-second spread at Loyola, so they're going to continue to rise here. Kind of a surprise program that we weren't expecting to be a contender in the Big Ten, let alone in the nation now. So it's really interesting to see them continue to rise.
So even with Melissa Riggins winning Paul Short, they still fall out the top 10.
Yeah, they were third, right? Like they got beat by Penn State as well as Villanova, and so they fell right behind Penn State in the rankings. They go from 11th to 15th.
All right, that makes sense. Anything stand out to you guys before we go on to the individuals?
I think one thing that stands out, just as I look at kind of your notes on the rankings, John, is like, it seems like, unless these are potentially old notes in there, but it looks like a lot of teams still maybe haven't quite raced an A squad at one meet particular. Like maybe they raced their top athletes here and a couple of people here. Like, it's interesting to me because I feel like at this point in the season, like I feel like I always had raced at least a couple races, and we raced a pretty full squad. So it's just kind of interesting to see some of these teams holding back a little bit and maybe saving some of the firepower. I know a lot of people went really late into the season with track this year, obviously with World Championships being so late and everybody trying to qualify for their various national championships there. So I just wonder how much that plays a factor. And it's just kind of an interesting kind of thing I've realized looking at this.
Yeah, I mean, the two teams that really stick out, especially on the women's side, right, if we're keeping the women in mind here, the two squads that we haven't seen at full strength yet are Oregon and Stanford in the top 10. Obviously, two programs that we think could compete for the national championship later this year, both ranked inside the top 5. Krissy, do you have any insight on like why they are waiting this late? I mean, it's going to be really October 17th until they unleash their full squad, which is, I mean, a month and a half into the season at that point.
I don't have any, factual insight. I can only kind of give insight on what I assume is going on. And, you mentioned a team like Oregon. Like, I'd have to look at who's on their cross-country roster to confirm this number, but I'm pretty sure they have a handful of people who competed, at the World Championships this year. So I feel like Shalane's probably playing it really smart, giving them the much-needed break that they need. And honestly, as long as you can bring your mind around, I had a great coach at Furman who once told us, the body doesn't forget. You do. So they could, probably be still taking their break right now. And as long as their mind's there and they're willing to throw down come November, like, they're going to be phenomenal. Those women have showed that they know what they're doing. They know how to make teams. They know how to win titles. So I feel like she's probably giving them the much-needed break that they need, especially with how demanding the NCAA season is, just in general, cross-country, indoor-outdoor, now more than ever. So, those coaches are probably being very smart, knowing they want their athletes at their best come November.
Yeah, it's a long season, especially like you said, this year was so long for so many of those women.
It's going to be really interesting to see what Oregon can put on the table. Like, I think we have a really good idea of what Stanford has to offer. I think on both the men's and women's side for Oregon, there's still a lot of question marks, right? Like, especially on the men's side. We know they're going to be a good squad. We currently have them ranked 13th. But that Big Ten is, like, awfully competitive this year, right? And it's going to be interesting to see because right now I don't know if we necessarily have a team in that Big Ten conversation that we're like, hey, they are 100% going to win on the men's side. Especially when you consider how close, like, Oregon, Washington are to each other. You add in, obviously, we have some strong contenders from the East Coast as well. So there's a lot of question marks. We mentioned Northwestern on the women's side. I don't know if they're necessarily going to compete with Oregon on the women's side, but again, maybe we don't know, right? Like when you don't open the season until October 17th, we don't know what you have. You're like a complete question mark. You could have half of your women are injured and we don't know.
I mean, that's
right. So after that in, like you're opening your season basically 2 weeks before conferences or a week before conferences, week and a half, whatever it comes out to, right? Like, so it's like going to be really interesting to see. Math, yeah.
Math, it's hard. But it's
okay.
okay.
Let's take a look at the key shifts and storylines as we look at the individuals. Let's start with the men individuals D1 rankings. All right, John, talk to me.
Again, no action on the men's side inside the top 18. No one in the top 10 even raced this weekend. A lot of them came off busy weekends last weekend, whether they were at games or at Jamboree. Outside the top 10, look down to 19th. Jason Bowers of East Tennessee State. He was first at the HOKA Invitational, and then he won the Louisville Classic this week. He moves up to 19. He took down quite a few ranked men, including Middle Tennessee State's Alan Kipplegott, who we kind of expected to be inside the top 20. he fell down to 27th. He was actually 5th at Louisville. And then we saw a little bit more movement of just based on, how people finished throughout the weekend. Obviously, Nixon Kagai, who we mentioned earlier, he jumped up to 33rd. He was previously not ranked. And then we just saw a few other movers, including Sam Burgess, who jumped into the top 50 on heels of his win at Paul Short.
Okay, nice. Let's go into the women. What are we looking at in terms of the women's individual rankings? Let's pull it up.
Yeah, so if you look at the screen, you look at the screen, really the mover here was Hannah Gapes, who jumped up from 10th to 8th. She won the Lakefront Loyola. The two women who fell down there were Vera Joberg and Sophia Kennedy. Neither have opened their season, and so Hannah Gapes just moved up based on that, right? And she'll continue to climb, right? So if Jane doesn't race, if Amy Bundage doesn't race, she will quickly climb ahead of them. She's obviously one of the early season, I don't want to say surprises because we knew Hannah Gapes was going to be good, but she's one of the early season runners that is obviously looking pretty strong right now, and it'll be interesting to see how much stronger that NC State squad gets. They're obviously on our radar to be a really, really, really strong team, national contenders. Outside of the top 10, Florence Karen remains at her 11th spot. You see some movement there based on the Louisville Classic. So Joy Nukat, sorry, it's a really hard name. She falls down from 12th to 17th. She was 3rd at Louisville. She was a second collegian, but she got beat by Sylvia Jalego of Clemson. So you see a little bit movement based on that. Sylvia Jalego moves up. Joy moves a little bit down. Outside of that, not a ton of movement inside the top 20. Outside of the top 20, you see a little bit more, including Sydney Thorvaldsen of Arkansas. She won Chili Peppers, so she jumps up from 37 to 31. As a result, you see a little bit of movement down with athletes that she passes. And then another one that I'm really interested in is NC State's Bethany Michalak. She was 2nd at Loyola. She was 3rd at Adidas early in the season. She goes from not ranked to 37.
Okay. Krissy, anything there that jumps out to you?
No, not beyond what we've talked about. I am really curious to see how people who haven't opened their season yet, like what they're doing. I guess one thing that's standing out is I am curious. I probably should have asked while I was there the other week. I'm curious what my girl Peyton Noe is doing. She had such a strong season last year. From cross country all the way through outdoor. So I'd love to see her open back up. I do feel like I know we're talking individual, but I feel like that plays. That'll make a huge difference when it comes to team rankings. She's an incredible low stick, and if we can just get her back in the front and then pick our 5th back up where everyone is, I feel like that changed things around. But I'm not gonna, don't want to talk too much about that because obviously I'm a little biased, and also we're talking individuals right now.
We welcome biases here. It's all good. But let's get into the D2 rankings and see what's going on the men's side. Okay, not a lot of movement except for West Texas A&M. John, what's up?
Yeah, West Texas A&M, they were 3rd at Louisville. So they jumped up to 10th from 13th. They just passed a few teams that didn't race this weekend, including Colorado Christian, Fort Lewis, and Pittsburgh State. Another big mover on the men's side was Northwest Missouri. They moved from 18th to 15th. They were 3rd at Chili Pepper, which was a really, really impressive finish. If you were to go back and look at the results there, obviously you had a couple of Division I teams in the mix there. So for them to finish 3rd was really cool to see. And then outside of that, really not a ton of movement inside your top 20 on the Division II side. You're going to see a lot more movement on Division III side when we get there. But that's really all we have on the D2 men's side. If we switch over to the D2 women's side, again, not any movement really, just based on what we saw. None at all in the top 10. When we look down, we're actually not going to see movement outside of 3 teams. So we had UW Parkside moved up to 24th from 26th. They were 19th at Louisville over Davis and Elkins. 25th is going to be Colorado Christian, and 26th is Wayne State. They all just fall down a place based on UW Parkside moving up.
Okay. And let's get a little bit into the individuals. I believe we have some D2 individual. Let's start with the men.
Yeah, the climber here is going to be Kobe Fraza. He moves up from 8th to 7th. Ian Rono moves down a spot. Kobe Fraza was someone who was 22nd at Joe Pian in the top race. So, again, we mentioned Grand Valley and their performance there. Really strong performance from him as an individual. Earlier this year, he was second at Michigan State behind Riley Howe. It was someone we talked about last week, right? Like, really strong athlete. So Kobe Fraza moves up to 7. Adrian Legarreta moves up to 10th from 12th. He was someone we did have in the top 10 earlier in the year. He fell back last week, but is back into the top 10 after an 8th place finish at Louisville. Outside the top 10, really quickly want to highlight a couple of individuals. We had Joaquin Campos of Wingate. He was 16th in the Paul Short top race. We got some info that Wingate wasn't going all out. They were actually kind of, it was their season opener. They weren't going at full strength. They had some guys, obviously knocking off some rust. So we're expecting to see a few Wingate athletes eventually climb into the top 10. It is actually a shock that we're this late in the season don't have any Wingates on the top 10. I think at this point last year, we had 5 Wingate guys in the top 10. So we'll continue to see them rise, but obviously we want to call that out.
Any hot takes before we get into individuals on the women's side?
I have no hot takes.
Okay.
No hot takes. I think we'll see a new number. We'll see a new number 1 next time we do this. That's my hot take.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that. All right, let's check out the women, guys.
All right, now here we have a little bit more movement. Ava O'Connor, she's going to fall down from 2nd. A lot of question marks, right? She's listed on the Adams State roster, but she hasn't raced so far this year. If she is racing, she's going to be one of our favorites. We dropped her down to 5th on kind of the idea that we haven't seen her race. Like, we can't keep her in the top 3 if you're not racing. Especially a little bit different than D1, where it's a little bit rarer to see people hold out this late in the year. Okay. Especially regionals is really not that far away. We also see Delina Molina drop down to 7th from 6th. Sarah Coomson jumps up to 6th from 8th. A little bit more movement towards the back half of the top 10, just based on small movement. I don't really want to go too far into the weeds. Really the big one here was Allison Kuzma jumps up to 13th from 15th after her 12th place finish at Louisville.
Okay, and let's jump right into D3. Let's see what's happening on the men's side in terms of teams.
Okay, now here we saw a lot more movement, especially when you look past the top 5. Obviously, UW La Crosse keeps the top spot after their 6th place finish at Joe Pian. Then we had Williams jump up to 6th from 7th. Johns Hopkins jump up from 10th to 7th. St. Olaf and Pomona Pitzer dropped a couple spots each. And North Central moves into the top 10 after their 7th place finish at Louisville.
Okay. And then finally, let's do D3 women's team rankings.
MIT remains MIT remains at the top spot. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they didn't race all of their women at Paul Short. If they had, it would have been a very interesting battle between them and NYU. Williams took the win at KSC, so they're going to move up from 3rd to 2nd. NYU jumps from 6th to 3rd. Claremont Mudscripts, they're going to fall a little bit from their 2nd place positioning due to a 6th place finish at Pomona. They were still, these top 4 teams are close, right? I think we are still looking at MIT as our heavy favorite, but I think 2, 3, and 4, they're close. I think Paul Short is still in that mix as well. They were the 2nd D3 team at Paul Short. So Johns Hopkins is obviously a team we're going to want to watch. Outside of that, SUNY Geneseo jumps into the top 10 from their previously being ranked 11th.
All right, let's go into the D3 individuals for men.
Yeah, I think really here, the big one we want to call out is obviously Emmanuel LeBlanc. He holds on to that top spot after that really strong 6th place finish at Paul Short. A little bit of movement here. Isaac Van Westeren, he drops down from 3rd to 4th, although he probably could have actually held that spot. We moved Batty up to 3rd based on his win at Blue Gold. Outside of that, a little bit of movers and shakers. Ryan Hagan jumps into the top 10. Suni Geneseo, he was 14th last week, jumps up to 10th. He was the second D3 athlete at Paul Short and ran a 23:45 8K. Just insanity how fast these kids are running nowadays. But he jumps in the top 10, and Nathan Tassie is going to be the guy who falls out. He was previously ranked 6th. He finished second in the Paul Short white race, right behind Will Schufilt, who stays in the 17th spot.
Right. D3 women?
And this one's really interesting. We saw Jules Blakowski. She won Paul Short. So we actually had our top few individuals in D3 race this weekend. You know, we had 1, 2, and 3 all kind of packed up late in Paul Short. So that was Jules Blakowski, Haley Schoenig, and Audrey McLean. They were our top 3 ranked athletes last week. They were all in that Paul Short race. So Blakowski held on to her top spot. Audrey McLean finished second, and she's going to actually move up to our second spot. Haley Schoenig had, I don't want to say a disappointing finish. She still finished top 10 at Paul Short, but she'll fall down to 6th after that performance. Jumping into our top 10 was also Carter Brotherton of Johns Hopkins. She was 44th in the Paul Short gold race, which was about the same time that we saw, you know, Kate Sanderson and Hannah Stevenson run. So that's kind of the movement you see there. No other kind of people fell out besides Janie Cooper of NYU. She has not opened her season yet, and that's really all the movement you see there.
Okay, I'm looking forward to see how this progresses. John, as usual, thank you for everything. Thank you for your expert analysis, and thank you for these rankings. They are always something to talk about.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right, guys, so excited to bring on a very special guest. We have Sam Burgess, Harvard junior, distance standout. He won the Paul Short run, the college AK. Sam, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining. Let me talk to you real quick about the season you've been having and the things that's been going on. You mentioned when you spoke to John that your athleticism is in a different place. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've just had a good summer of training. I've been pretty consistent now for a while, and it's nice to finally start to race pretty well. So yeah, it was a good season opener.
That's pretty good.
You know, obviously you got Coach B there. He has just, you know, always kind of turned out some really top tier distance athletes. You know, can you just walk through like some of the workouts, some of the training that you've done this summer that's kind of elevated you to that next level? You know, to be able to get the win at Paul Short. Like, I guess, like, just detail some of the weeks. What kind of mileage are you running? Anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's like pretty standard, like distance training for like what a lot of the guys that are up there are probably doing. It's like, I mean, over the summer I was like 100 miles a week, and it's basically just like 2 workouts, a lot of aerobic thresholds, and then like 20-mile long run like once a week. Yeah, that's what like a typical week of training looks like for me.
Solid stuff. Krissy, you want to ask Sam a question?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people fall into 2 camps when you start to see a good jump or progress that they're making. And sometimes it can be a bit of both, you know. But I feel like, you know, there's Camp A, which is you're finally taking to the training that you're being given. You know, I feel like college can be, you know, there's definitely some growing pains there. And other times it's, you know, it's on the athlete and the individual where they finally go, oh, wait, I want this. Like, I'm going to get serious about it. Do you think that you fall into either one of those camps more, or do you think it's a little bit of both?
Probably a bit of both. Like, I think as long as you're like staying consistent with the training, like it's not necessarily that your progress is going to be linear. Like, you're obviously going to have a lot of ups and downs, and then I don't know, even if your training's not like vastly different from how it was a season ago, like you might make a big jump like one week where, I don't know, maybe not everyone expected it. And on the conference, I mean, I'd say like heading into Paul Short was definitely like some of the more confident that I've been heading into a race, at least in college. It was just like kind of like a gear switch where I was like, hey, like, I think I can win. I really want to. And then it was kind of just going out there and executing.
So does a result like this change your priorities at all? You know, because it seems like you've been a huge team player. You know, you've competed at the national championships in cross country for your team, both your true freshman and your sophomore year. So you know how to get to a national meet. You know how to help your team out. But does this, you know, taste at the college win and individual success change it for you at all?
I think the goals are still pretty similar. Like for us, it's obviously try and run really well at conference, and then qualify for the national meet at regionals and try and run really well there. I think there's a lot of responsibility on the team for people to step up, and I don't know. I view it as a pretty good opportunity to step up, and then just coming off a good race, it does build to the confidence and what I think I can do later in the season.
You mentioned like team and stepping up and having guys, and you know, what's it like having Tam join the team? Obviously, you know, he had a phenomenal senior season last year. He finishes just a couple seconds behind you at Paul Short, and you know, what's it like to be able to kind of take the leadership role and mentor a guy like that who's already coming in with so much, like, you know, prowess, I guess you would say is maybe the word, and just like be able to fill the shoes that maybe Graham left last year, and to take a senior leadership role.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Yeah, we have a huge freshman class this year. We have 9 freshmen. A lot of them are really talented and running really well. Tam especially, I'm in 3rd place at Paul Short for his first collegiate race. Isn't too bad. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a lot of opportunity. I mean, with 9 freshmen, there's a lot of opportunities for them to step in and really help us out down the stretch this year, which I think is a pretty exciting experience to have your freshman fall with a lot of new change and everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's tough going in freshman year, new place, new environment, and everything like that. I got one more question, if it's okay.
Of course.
You know, looking at the rest of the season, I think you guys mentioned that you're going to Nuttycombe, but obviously Nuttycombe, and then it seems like everybody's kind of moving right into conference and everything after that. What are some of your goals now, you know, after getting a win here, looking at the competition at like Nuttycombe where there's more ranked teams and things like that, and it just like the competition level steps up just a hair more?
To be honest, I don't really know what the field looks like for Nuttycombe. I haven't really developed any like race strategies for it yet. I might have to talk to my coach, but definitely try and be higher than I've been at some of the big meets in the past. I think last year I was probably like around 100th at pre-nats. So yeah, I mean, I'd say just try and be like up there and feel like I'm like actually in the race this year would be a step forward from last year for Nuttycombe. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sure Gibby will give you something good. He always seems to
yeah.
have little tips and tricks up his sleeve. I remember doing the mic'd up with
Yeah.
him last year at the 10, him and Graham. So he always has some fun things to give for words of advice. But
Oh yeah, for sure. Sam, before we let you go, I want to know, you spoke a lot about confidence, this newfound confidence. What do you think this is going to do for you for the rest of cross country season, into indoor, maybe even into outdoor?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the ball's just starting to roll. I mean, like you see a lot of guys, like a lot of times they'll have one good race and then like they get a little more confident, race a little better.
Yeah.
Get even more. I mean, that happened with like Farron's in the spring. One of our 1500 guys is like, he was like freaking out about making the regional meet, and then a few good races later, a good conference meet, and he's 3rd in the country, running 3:34. So I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but I'm saying it's definitely good energy to bring into the postseason.
Hey, it might. We'll, put that in the air. But yes, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Tell Coach Gibby happy Coaches Day for us, all of the good things. But thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Best of luck this season.
Thank you.
Sam was amazing, but what's also amazing, Stashies at Nashies. I am so happy that we are doing this, guys. Krissy, what's going on over there? Where's your stash, sis?
I forgot. So have an impromptu little you're in
love it.
elementary school and you walk up to someone. You're like, I must ask you a question. It'll shave it for later.
That, I'm sure you can appreciate that dad joke.
That was great. That was a dad joke level joke there.
Okay, let's talk about Ryan Hagan from SUNY Geneseo at the Paul Short Invitational. Look at the way it just kind of blows in the wind if you look real closely.
I don't know if it blows in the wind, Nia. I mean, it's like a good stash, like because we're looking for it now. But I think like people can send in better stashes than that. I mean, no offense,
Ryan. I think you're hating a little bit. If I'm being honest, I think you're hating a little bit.
I don't know, Krissy, what do you think about that stash? Is that on a scale of 1 to 10? Where do we rate that on a stash level?
I'd give it a solid 7.5.
Okay.
I do think a 10 out of 10. I would love to see something like coming all the way down, maybe seeing a braid, handlebars. Everyone loves a good handlebar, the little curl.
That's what I'm working for.
If I could grow one, it would be like that.
Come November, when y'all see me in November at Nationals, I will get enough to do it. I'm telling you, all November I'm going to grow out the stash. That's the goal.
Brian, you gotta lock in.
I'm fine. I got this. I am good to go. I can grow a stash. I'm pretty positive I can grow a stash for Nashies.
All I know is next time we bring this segment up, I can't hear, yeah, Nia, I shaved this morning.
I don't like having it. It gets itchy, it gets scratchy, and then you got to shave like the neck beard if you like it. It's
all I hear is excuses.
But don't worry, come November I'll lock in. I'll have it the whole month of November. Maybe I'll just keep it continuously throughout the year. All
right, no more excuses. It's starting to get real strict around here. You too, Krissy. Next time the finger stash isn't gonna work, sis.
I'll get one. Or I'll make my boyfriend grow his out, and I'll bring him on screen.
That's what I'm talking
Perfect.
The point of
about.
having a boyfriend if it's not to grow a mustache for you.
Exactly. You gotta tell him lock in. Like there's a prize on the line. Lock in.
I will.
But yes, as usual, guys, make sure you stop us, tag us, look for us, #Stashies at Nashies. We want to see the best stashes of cross-country season. And I mean, it's not even limited to just college. High schoolers, tag us, stop us, all of that.
Hey, if you can grow a mustache in high school, I think you automatically get extra points. Because I could not, just saying.
And listen, end of the season, the fan favorite does get a prize. So, I mean, I like prizes. But yes, before we close out, guys, any grievances? Speak now, forever hold your peace until the next episode. Any cross-country last thoughts? Did we cover everything? What are we thinking?
No, I'm feeling good. I'm excited for more cross-country, that real fall feel coming back now. It's going to get a little colder, hopefully. We got Nutty Comb coming up in a few weeks. That'll be a great one for good fall feel. I mean, that's it for me. Anything from you, Krissy?
No, everything that Ryan said was perfect. I feel like we're a little limited in the analysis that we can give right now. I think John's done a fantastic job, working what he's got all of, 2 weeks. So I'm excited to be back up with you guys and see what's been going on a little more in a couple weeks.
I think what I'm excited about, I may eat my words. I'm excited for the weather to start getting a little funky. Like when we're starting to see that grit from those runners, whether it's muddy or snowy or windy or the conditions are just not ideal.
Weather.
Good old cross country. Very gritty.
Some adversity out there, of course. Yep.
We're going to see the real mud and mile spotlights. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.